Hey everybody, it's Ian with Getting Work. I just want to talk a little bit today about the thing that we've heard so much about this week, Damar Hamlin getting injured, critically life-threatening injury that happened on Monday Night Football this week. And so much has gone into the outpouring of love for him. And, we want to definitely extend our love from, Getting Work as well. It's horrible to see anything like this, and nothing but love for the family, thoughts with the family and things like that. Of course, without question, that the most important thing is Damar getting healthy, getting well, not for football, just getting back to life, his family, his friends. I don't know if he has kids, but any of his family and friends just getting back up, walking, et cetera, et cetera. That's the most important thing. It's the only really important thing at this point. That goes without saying, but I still want to say it. This video, there is, of course, the other side of things. There's so much else going on as well when something like this happens, that there's always multiple things that have to go on from the NFL standpoint, from the team standpoint, from everyone else that now has to pick up and figure out in an unprecedented sort of situation what to do next. What's the not tone deaf thing? What's the right amount, but still being able to carry on with life and things like that. So today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit as sort of the evil empire side of things, from the NFL side of things, what they have to be going through right now as far as what to do. They're a $1 billion organization, what they have to continue to do as things move on, and while not coming across as the evil empire as I was calling them. One of the things that they will unfortunately probably pay a lot of service to will be whether they'll talk about player safety a lot. So player safety is going to be the thing that's the buzzword. That's the thing that they're going to come up and talk about the most. And this is where the evil empire piece of it kind of kicks in. When something bad like this happens, the first thing everyone kind of looks for is who to blame. And it's easy to blame the NFL at this point. They're the easy one. They're the big bad in the area. This stretches back to the 5 minutes. Supposedly there was it was announced on the broadcast a lot that the NFL had given both teams 5 minutes to get ready after the injury. That was reported. Depending on who you talk to, they say, the NFL, of course, is saying that's not a thing. It was said on the broadcast a bunch. That's a big deal. They're going to talk about player safety over the coming weeks, things like that. It's basically people focused on the wrong things. At that point, they're more covering themselves. And it's easy when something bad like this happens to get focused on the wrong things. Who to blame, who to, point the finger at, that type of thing. I don't believe in this situation that's not constructive in any way. So from the NFL side of things, they are the big villain. And unfortunately, being the big villain, there is one thing that they will do above all else. If you've ever watched the NFL, if you've ever seen as far as like court cases and things like that, the number one thing that they do, and quite frankly, they have to do, even though it sounds extremely cold, they have to do this, and that's protect the shield. They have to protect the shield. Above all else, quite frankly. That sounds horrible, and it is, but it is also sort of the cold reality of business. You have to protect the shield. That's your money maker. There's millions of people that are relying on the money that is brought in by that. And so you kind of have to think of like how can we go about protecting that shield? One of the biggest things is they have to think of not only the present, but the future. And that comes from, especially again, from a legal side of things, if you're thinking lawsuits. So the way they handle this particular situation will have a direct effect on how they have to handle other situations in the future. And if they don't, they've set a precedence, that type of thing. Lawsuits come. They have to protect themselves. It sounds cold. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying factually this is the case. But they also have to think of it's all about the dollar at the end of the day, right? Unfortunately. So the type of money, they have to look at their ad revenues. They have to look at their TV rights. Sports betting. Everyone doesn't want to hear it, but sports betting, gambling, let's call it what it is, gambling, is a $1 billion business for the NFL. No question. Maybe where they get their most money, quite frankly. TV rights is up there, but sports betting is where it's at. How they decide, what they decide to do with this game between Cincinnati and Buffalo is going to have a direct effect on that. So they're trying to factor all of that in. So whatever they decide, it seems small here, but there's such a ripple effect off of that. Again, whatever precedent also that they set when they decide what to do with that particular game also will have a ripple effect on what they could or may not be able to do in the future. So that's unfortunately, again, sounds cold, but the first thing the NFL has to think of is protecting themselves. Protect the shield. That's what they're going to do above all else. And again, I keep saying it sounds terrible, but it is just a fact of the way big businesses work. So the other big thing is playoffs. Cincinnati and Buffalo are both right at the top of the AFC. So if you watch football, you know this. They're right there at the top of the AFC, rather. And because of that, Kansas City currently has a half-game lead over, as for the number 1 seed. Buffalo is second. Cincinnati is third. And Cincinnati and Buffalo are separated by 1 game, which means that 1 game really would have been a major deciding factor as to who would, as far as playoff seeding goes. Currently, like I said, Cincinnati's 1 game back of Buffalo. They both have obviously played the same amount of games. Buffalo is 1 game back, or half game at this point, back of KC. They had the opportunity to tie KC. And because of that, as far as playoff seeding goes, again, in the grand scheme of things, is it the most important thing? No. Hamlin's health obviously is. But again, I'm speaking from the NFL side of it. They have to think forward and what's going to happen as far as the other teams in the league. The best thing from the NFL's perspective, I believe, would be that Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City all play Sunday. The NFL has already come out and said that they're not going to change Week 18, the last week of the regular season. They're not going to change anything about that. In their perfect world, Buffalo would win, Cincinnati would lose, and Kansas City would lose. If that's the case, Kansas City would then be in a virtual tie sort of with Buffalo. But because Buffalo already beat them early in the year, that would mean Buffalo would be the number 1 seed. KC would easily be then the number 2 seed. And Cincinnati would be the number 3 seed. It's clean. It's probably the cleanest way to handle all of this. At this point, the options of having Buffalo and Cincinnati play or complete that game, it's not impossible, but it would take a lot of finagling to really make that happen at this point. They didn't play any this week. Once you kind of pass Wednesday in a week, you can't play. It's not basketball. It's not baseball. You can't play 2 days later. So it's not like, hey, Friday, the Cincinnati and Buffalo, y'all play each other. And then Sunday, week 18, we'll just, go again. You can't do that. There's, again, player safety, risk, et cetera, quality of the game. Not looking like a tone-deaf $1 billion company. That's big. That's very, very big for the organization, for the NFL. They do that anyhow. They will do that no matter what happens, simply because they are a $1 billion industry. But there is, time and place where you have to be able to do that. That's the biggest reason for why rescheduling is going to be complicated. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, I believe that the NFL is that game's just not going to be played. I think that it's going to be an imbalanced schedule. And week 18, last week of the regular season, playoffs start the week after that. There's talk of they might, try to slide all the playoffs off. There's so much that goes into that. There's so much money. There's already teams that have, or people that have booked hotels. There's all this other stuff that goes on with that. Sometimes you don't want to make a bad situation worse. I believe the best option at this point for them will be to simply, Cincinnati and Buffalo will not play that game, or they simply call it 7-3. That's also a very easy option. The game's 7-3. That's also a nice, clean way. You say, Buffalo lost, Cincinnati won, and you proceed into Week 18 with the two of them tied, and a game back of Kansas City, and just proceed from there. Is it a perfect world? No. In a perfect world, the game finished Monday. Everyone walked away healthy. Unfortunately, it's not, and this is where we are. So, like I said, I just wanted to talk about, sort of from the NFL's perspective, the types of things that they have to be looking at and where they are in the stream of time. And again, I hope Hamlin is absolutely very best for Hamlin and his family. There's nothing it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch Sunday or Monday night. So hope all is well. Everybody else, take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Later, fam.